we have an interview. What's up, guys? GeorgeTheCloud here. Welcome to the channel and welcome to my life. Big shout out to Raymundo. Thank you so much for the coffee. So we are checking out VH1 to 1, Natalie Merchant 1995. And I believe this is when she was starting her solo career. I've reacted to her many times, as well as 10,000 Maniacs. You can just type them, on my channel. And I've also reacted to several interviews with Natalie. So this is her getting interviewed by Anthony DeCurtis in 1995, discussing her newly established solo career and her album Tiger Lily, which I've also reacted to at least some of the songs in the album. So let's get into it. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you'd like to support my music journey, please check out my Patreon. It helps out a lot. In fact, I don't even know if I can put this on YouTube, hopefully. Otherwise, it will be on Patreon. All right, grab some popcorn, fill up your water, put your headphones on. And let's go.
Natalie, you've just come through a period of a lot of changes. It's just like being in class.
Indeed, I have. Would you like me to answer that?
No, well, let me just start it.
What even happened? I've never seen Natalie this, like this entertained, laughing this much. Have I even seen her laugh just slightly? Man, this guy must be a very good interviewer.
Would you like me to answer that?
No, well, let me just start it. Yeah, I don't even think I got to the question yet. We thought it was just a build-up.
Yes.
We're just kind of moving up towards it. No, but you have come through a period of a lot of changes. You've, you left your band. You hired a new manager. Was there as much turmoil going on as it would seem? What was all that about?
Turmoil?
She just went right into it. Turmoil.
It really didn't feel like turmoil. It just felt like a time to change. I mean, I'd been doing the same thing for 12 years. Probably like anyone who had the same job for 12 years and just wanted a career change. I felt like
Good answer.
it'd be interesting to collaborate with some different musicians, but I didn't want to do it as a side project. I just wanted to make a break. So.
Were you nervous about it?
The thing that I was most nervous about was finding the right musicians to play with, because that was the most important thing to me. It's hard enough to find someone you can have a conversation with and feel a connection with, let alone someone that you can live with for long periods of time, as you do when you're making a record and touring, and still be able to create something with them. Making music with someone is really difficult if you don't feel a sympathetic relationship there.
If the Maniacs had just come off, a very significant and successful record, did you feel much either external or external pressure to try to follow that up, or had you made that decision before even doing that?
Well, the decision to leave the Maniacs was made 2 years before it was made public. So I feel that even though we had 2 successful records in that time, the Unplugged record and Our Time in Eden, everyone knew they'd be out of their minds to suggest that I'd do anything different, because my mind was really set on leaving, and I think the success of the last 2 records was just made me feel better about the decision, because I was leaving people with a bit of security.
Yeah, I was gonna say the fact that she was able to leave on a high note. Usually, if you kind of see things start going the wrong way, or you just want to change, like she said, then towards the end you're like running out of gas, and it's not going to be the same level of quality as when you were at your peak. But in her situation, she's just like, the last few records were successful, they were hits, and ended it there, which is maybe unlikely.
Any of the guilt that I'd felt about abandonment and things like that. I think it's universally proven that bands are very similar in structure to families, and it's strange. It's like an adopted family, and that the family was successful in many ways. Things seemed to operate, and that was the thing that actually I was frustrated with, was that everything felt like business as usual. I wanted a little bit more of a challenge, but Like the keyboard player Dennis and his wife had just had a baby, and Steve's wife was expecting, and those were the things that I felt guilty about. Should I stay so that they have economic security, or do I stay until the kids are out of college? You know, how long do I stay? And if I'm frustrated, should I be true to myself? And
What she's saying here, and by the way, guys, I'm gonna be pausing a lot here and there. It's a longer video, but it shows how caring of a person she is, because a lot of people would just do it. They wouldn't be like, you know, it's my career, it's my life. I'm leaving. That's the end. But she's like, no, you know, the band members, their kids, their families, they're just getting started. The economic security, right? And so for her to have that in her mind and kind of be, you know, some a part of the equation of the decision, then it just goes to show me that she's a good person.
it's really probably intangible if you've never been in a band. Your destiny seems very collective until you wake up one morning and say, no, I'm an individual, and I can move freely about the world without 5 other people attached.
Could you tell us a little bit about, you know, how you grew up?
I came from working class stock.
Working class, baby.
My parents divorced when I was relatively young, so being the child of a single working mother, there were always issues of financial security. There was, you know, growing up with the threat of poverty was something that, you know, we always drove a used car, and my mother supplemented her income by painting houses in the summer, which I didn't see many other kids that I went to school with. I didn't see their mothers up on ladders all summer, you know, painting houses to be able to buy or...
Actually, well, that may be more information, but my mom has done that, and so I'm like literally painting houses in the summer. Man.
Winter coats, which was what she was basically doing. We didn't have many luxury items. So even when I was in the band, up until about the 6th year, I really didn't think it was going to provide any security for me, and my family didn't either. I was constantly encouraged to, oh, well, this was a good thing to do, and you got to travel a bit, and it was fun. Now go back to school and you know, become something that will provide you security.
In those early days, you know, I mean, when I first actually met you and saw the band, you seemed, you know, you were still a teenager, and you seemed like somebody who was possessed when you were on stage. You know, there was a real kind of sense of kind of artistic drive. Where did that come from?
That's another point, that when every single time I have seen her being interviewed, she's so composed, right? Very articulate, slow at responding, you know, thinking it through. Then when she gets on stage, she starts doing, like, you know, the movements, the dancing, like kind of going crazy. So different.
I think it came from the music and and performing, just knowing that I was in front of people who were, I don't know, maybe it didn't come from there either. I mean, that's the same feeling comes over me now when I'm on stage. It's like a raw sense of honestly understanding who I am at that moment through the music. The dancing is completely improvised. I don't have any routine of any sort. Like that. And the singing, I think it's also because I was singing, when I sing my own music, that it's something that I invented and created, and something that I'm giving to people, and there's something really powerful in that.
So what kind of criteria did you set for yourself in the music you wanted to make? Did you have a sound in your head? Did you know specifically what you wanted to do, or were you in a more kind of experimental mode?
Well, I'd say that the thing that I wanted to do is make a record very quickly, because I didn't want to deliberate about it and let it become too heavy. The weight of it being, this is my first solo record, and this is the defining record of my career. I wanted to get away from the trap that could create. what I wanted to do was just put out a record of all the songs I wrote that I felt best about in the year period after I left the band. And as far as sound, I wanted it to be very pure and very simple, because the Unplugged record taught me that you can just go on stage and perform live with a well-rehearsed group of people and a strong set of songs, and you could make a record. So all the months and months of laboring over a record weren't really necessary. I guess it depends on what kind of record you want to make, but that's the record I wanted to make.
It's also a sense, I think, you know, or it seems, in which you tried to establish almost a kind of communal feel. You know, you bought a house during this period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And weren't you recording in the same place, essentially, where you were living, you know, with the band around?
Right.
And
The house that I bought with the intention of building a small rehearsal space, recording studio, and having enough room for a band to live with me. At that time, I didn't know who my band was, but that was sort of part of the selection process, is could I live with this person?
Mm.
And it was a good experiment, and I'm glad I did it. Now that we're rehearsing for the tour and the group is larger, I'm done with that experiment.
right, they can go live somewhere else.
They
All right.
can go find somewhere else.
They can sleep somewhere else.
But it was a great thing to do, because we had to become a band that felt like we'd been together for years, and we only had weeks, months to do it. We actually, 5 months altogether that we worked together getting ready for the record. And then we worked in a residential studio too, Bearsville.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we were in Woodstock in the middle of the winter, and you can't get much closer than being in the studio 12 hours a day, and then, you know, through the snow back to your communal dwelling, you know. We were close together for this record. I can't hide behind 10,000 Maniacs anymore. I am now, it's almost like I've become a brand name.
Coming up.
You know, hand me the Natalie Merchant.
Trying to figure out the
What
song.
was your sense of anticipation about the record? You know, once you'd completed it and you're kind of waiting for it to come out, at that point, you know, did you feel more exposed than you had been in your career as part of a band? I mean, did you feel like you were out there in a way that made you more vulnerable?
I think the thing that made me feel more exposed was that this record was lyrically more personal.
Yeah, I mean, songs like, you know, 7 Years or Jealousy are not the sort of things that people are used to hearing from you. There's, you know, the real kind of, maybe even in a dramatic way, a sense of a personal voice speaking, as opposed to, you know, the kind of more atmospheric lyrics that sometimes you would write. You know, were you kind of conscious of that as you were working, or certainly after the record came out?
Right. More conscious of it when the record was out and people started responding to it, but and I guess I just feel like I always have to remind people those songs aren't all about me, though I use first person as a device. So
That's important right there, and I actually have to catch myself every now and then when I'm, you know, thinking about the music and talking about it. It's just like, no, it's not necessarily about the artist. It's stories maybe of other people, or, you know, just, you know, invented. So that's a good point.
I think because it's a solo record and because first-person pronouns are sprinkled throughout the record, I think a lot of people would think the record is completely about me. But I think it was also not working with a producer and being so involved in every step of the way, working with musicians who are really unseasoned. Jennifer, the guitar player, had really only played electric guitar for 1 year. She was 22 years old, never stepped foot in a recording studio before. So I had a lot of things to be a little bit apprehensive about, and I recorded the whole record without the record company hearing anything but a demo of 2 songs that was made in January of the previous year. So when Sylvia Rohn, who's chairwoman of the company, came to listen to the record, I think that was the most terrifying moment of the whole process. You know, I'd paid for the whole record, and I wanted to deliver it complete to the company. Here's my vision, it's done. Ooh. You know, do you like it? And she liked it.
this is also like something so interesting to me that I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, depending on how you see it, there's always somebody above, even with the artists, right? They have the record, the label, the company, and it's just like there's people in suits waiting for with the contracts and stuff like that. So there is that type of expectation and responsibility to deliver, right? And I think we forget about that sometimes. We're just like, no, they're at the top, they're wealthy, they're famous, they can just do whatever. And it's just like, no, they are controlled to a certain degree.
Here's my vision. It's done. Ooh. Do you like it? And she liked it quite a bit. So that, I think with every step of the process, I became more confident. And
What's your relationship to, kind of commercial success at this point? I mean, how important is that for you? You've established yourself as, an artist who's expected to sell a certain number of records. Is that, something that comes into play either, in your own expectations for an album that you would make, or in your dealings with your record company? How does that play out?
I'd be paralyzed if I was spending my time when I was sitting at the piano or at my typewriter, writing lyrics. I'd be paralyzed if I was thinking about what will people think of this. So my theory is always, if I please myself, then people will be pleased. And as far as the commercial success, the record seems to be selling as well, or even better than the 10,000 Maniacs records did. So I think any of the pressure that I might have perceived from the record company before has been completely eliminated. They're happy with the success.
What about critically? You've gotten some hard hits on this record. You've always been somebody
so
who...
I hear.
You don't pay attention?
Well,
I see.
Well, I pay attention because people tell me what magazines to avoid when I go to the newsstand, but I don't read them myself.
Would it really bother you to see something, negative?
It would. I mean, I expect that many people won't like what I do. I mean, there's a lot of music in stores today that I don't care for, but it's just always painful if it's something that, if you're an artist who, like myself, puts as much of herself into what she does, to have it heavily criticized is always painful. If it's constructive and I learn something from it, that's good, but I would respect that criticism more from someone who was actually, someone I was aware of what their achievements were. Someone who was, say, a producer or a fellow musician, or someone I knew who had been writing about music for years and years and years, and I really respected their opinion.
Another band that came up as, roughly your contemporary and that, you've had a lot of involvement with is, REM. Obviously, you're personal friends with Michael Stipe. You've toured with REM.
It's cool because I was thinking in my head, I wonder what musicians she respects, in her era. The way she said she doesn't really care for some music. Like, I don't think at that time she was listening to, Nirvana or Pearl Jam or something like that, but maybe she was. You never know. So I was thinking, who does she respect? Who does she listen to?
And there was certainly a sense early in the career of 10,000 Maniacs that REM almost kind of like loomed as a model or kind of direction setter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They seem to have kind of veered off in a direction very different from yours. I mean, at the same time as you're talking about your music being soothing, they seem to have really gotten more abrasive lately. I was just wondering how you see that kind of ebb and flow.
Well, I think it's good for an artist to metamorphosize, and I think that's what they've been able to do with every record. I've seen them 3 or 4 times on this tour, and it's exciting, but I don't know if I'm being nostalgic or if, just for personal reasons or what, but when they do a song like South Central Rain or Fall on Me, I get a feeling that I don't get with a lot of the newer material. So I always felt like pop bands with a spiritual side to them. I don't want to start sounding a way that I don't want to sound, but I'm drawn to that, and REM had that. They have it still, but that's the thing that attracted me to them. I think the record Murmur, I probably listened to that 40 times the first 2 weeks that I had it. You know, it was just, there's something about it that just touched me.
You know, when you talk about something like pop music with a spiritual side, you know, it seems like for a long time in your career, you know, I think it would seem like you felt really uncomfortable almost with the role of, you know, being the front person in a band, and, you know, some of your concerns maybe extended, you know, beyond what pop music seemed to represent. You know, at what point did you kind of settle in and feel like maybe you could do both? Yeah, right. What the hell? Why not be a famous right, singer in a great band?
What point was that? Well, it certainly wasn't when I was at, oh no, I won't mention that. It's just time, whenever I find myself at a music event, like a music business event, I feel like hiding in the ladies' room, just hiding, you know, and just, you know, I don't belong here. I don't know why I do this for a living, and I completely.
Because it seems like a kind of convention of just business people, or
no, it's not so much the business people as a lot of my contemporary performers. Just feels like there's all these little subdivisions of musicians, and I never feel like I fit into any of those subdivisions. I always feel like I should be over in the novelist category, or the
right,
like the you know, gardener category, or the you know, should have been a school teacher category. I don't know. I always, when I'm comparing myself, when I go to an event like the MTV Music Awards, I sit in my chair and say, where do I belong? Where do I fit? I don't know. So
I agree, because I like to be very organized in my life, even with like musicians, and I like to put things into like groups, segments, folders, whatever. And with Natalie, I've always been like, nah, she's just kind of by herself, right? And the way she was talking about it made it feel like high school. You know how there's different cliques, and oh, you know, are you with the jocks? Are you with the nerds? Are you with the artists? Are you this? And from her point of view, I could actually see her being nervous, like she says, hiding in the ladies' bathroom, because she doesn't have that ego, that attitude of like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna hang out with the rock stars over here, or with the pop stars, you know, with the girl groups, or with this and that. So I could see her being sort of like an outcast, even in the music industry. But you know, that maybe favors her, because you know, she does her own thing, and that's what we like about her. We, you know, it's not about fitting in. It's just you want to be original, and you know, you want to be comfortable doing what you do. You don't want to just be surrounded by other people just because you want to be a part of something, right? Because then you get, you know, coerced into doing whatever.
those moments I still feel a little uncomfortable. But as far as, I think of myself as a singer and a songwriter. And I try not to get too involved in anything beyond that. I find it really hard to create like an alter ego Natalie, to travel around and go to events where I'm supposed to be Natalie Merchant. Like the brain, like I feel like that's the one thing that's really awkward about, for me, being a solo artist now, is I can't hide behind 10,000 Maniacs anymore. I am now, it's almost like I've become a brand name. You know, hand me the Natalie Merchant.
Exactly.
Can you get me the Natalie Merchant? Boy,
Andy
if
Warhol
I just
went-
had the Natalie Merchant right now, I could, you know. It's like a
It's a-
three-quarter spanner or something. Get that Natalie Merchant wrench. You know?
Bring the Natalie-
You have been
We'll see
accused
what
of
they
being
found.
too serious.
That's right. And
Next.
politically correct. And
Too
you're just following-
concerned.
What is this song? I'm blanking. I think I've heard it.
Do you have a sense about musical directions that you might be interested in trying, ways in which you might be veering off?
Well, I've always wanted to do a record that was more impressionistic. I've been collecting my dreams for about 17 years, and I have a pretty amazing collection of images that I've always felt were just too abstract. I always felt as a songwriter that I was really concerned about delivering a message of some sort, and I would like to try to make a record that is more about the other life that we all have, that we spend half of our time dwelling in, that is free of logic and just free association.
It sounds like kind of an aspect of kind of the opposite of, we'll say, one of the charges that's been leveled against you about politically correct.
That one of the charges
Just leveled against you.
Exactly.
You hereby.
And now we're about to make a decision on them, so I hope that when the jury returns,
You have been
we'll see
accused
what
of
they
being
found.
too serious.
That's right. And politically correct. And
Too
just follow
concerned
with the world around you.
with the world around
Live like
you.
a pop star. Come on.
Lighten up. So
I I did see her that way when I first started reacting to her and her music. I guess a bit serious and concerned with the world around her, but as I've come to learn, watching the interviews and like this, meeting this side of her, more goofy, more open, right, relaxed. This is fun.
getting at Mr.
No,
Curtis.
that seems like another side. I mean, the more impressionistic, poetic kind of thing. I mean, because that's also something that, earlier in your career, it seemed that there was a lot more of that. This kind of, really fascinating, complicated poetry or something
Right.
that you like to spin out in your songs.
I've made 6 records with 10,000 minutes and now one by myself. And for anyone who knows all the records, they can see that there was a beginning when I was more abstract, and then I drifted into more of like a phase of being someone who addressed issues in my songs. And that lasted for about 3 records, and then I've been drifting progressively away from that, and there was a moment when I really felt it happen for me, was during the Gulf War. I just felt that anything that I had written was completely impotent. I just felt as an artist, maybe there was no way for me to write a 3.5-minute pop song that was going to stop all the atrocity, or even a little bit of the atrocity that was around me. I just felt completely overwhelmed by it. It was the first, I'd been aware of covert wars that the United States had been involved in, but it was the first just full-scale, out in the open slaughter of innocent people on both sides that I was aware of.
And this was in 1995. She would be disturbed now.
I just didn't feel like being that girl anymore.
So what do you see ahead? Are you looking forward to being on the road? Or is that something? I know at points you've had some difficulty with that. I mean, are you looking
Right.
forward to it now?
I think all performers have a point of difficulty on the road, but I'm looking forward to it. We just played in Boulder, Colorado a couple nights ago, and first time in years I stayed up all night after the show at a party. At a series of parties, actually.
An ongoing, a movable feast, in
Yeah,
fact.
it was.
Yeah.
We had our designated driver, and we met these kids in Boulder, and they just kept taking us from party to party to party. And I was just talking to people and just having a great time, and ended up, watching the sunrise, and thought, this is going to be fun. I like this group of people. Haven't done this in a long, long time.
Nice. Good for her. I'm happy for Natalie, especially in that last story. She just kind of let go. Just take some time. Stay up all night, watch the sunrise, party it up, and have fun. First things first, we hit the like. I am subscribed to Natalie, and I'll have a link of the original video down in the description below. So very interesting interview. I think definitely insightful into, you know, her mind, but also her personality. This is why I like watching interviews, because you get to figure out how people are. It's like, imagine if all of a sudden, you know, in this channel you just started seeing music videos from me. I just started singing just music. That you would not see, you know, me come across, right, the way you see with the reaction. So that's very different. All right, thank you guys for watching. If you have more suggestions, please comment, subscribe, and at the end do a flip. Till the next.